Since the show is called Timeless, I'm assuming you knew that your show, when you signed on, would be going back in time, unlike Hala.
I knew we were going to go back in time. I don't think I quite understood how difficult that really was going to be. Yeah.
I read an interview with Sean Ryan, one of the EPs, in which he said he was singing your praises, but he was like, I don't know how she does it. So how do you do it? Every episode, it's a new era. It's like a new century.
It's magic. It was... I have to say, when I was first approached about the show, I had to turn it down because I said it could not be done. I've been in the business a long time, and this just is not possible. And Eric Kripke, who I'd worked with before, had great confidence in me, and he said, please just go up to Canada and just get it going. We want to do this show. We'll figure it out as we go, and we'll back you up, and we'll be there for you. And I said, I'll make it to the 4th episode, and either I'll be fired or I'm going to have to quit. And so we got to the Alamo, which was our 4th episode,
yes.
And that's when everything went bananas. And
what happened?
We had to build the Alamo. We had to get a Mexican army up in Vancouver. We had to, it was freezing cold and snowing. Like, everything just was against us. It did not snow at the Alamo. So, I think everybody it was for every department. It just was a difficult, and I don't think anyone quite knew how we were going to do it. And we were lucky that we had a very spirited department heads, a very competent crew by that point. Everybody had kind of come together, and Eric was amazing, and Sean was amazing, and they really believed in the project, and we just all said a prayer and had everybody's back, and we said we're gonna make it through. We're gonna make it happen. And eventually, we moved the show down this season to Los Angeles, which is a much easier place to make it happen. But it's still it's difficult. Yeah.
Well, the clothes are almost like a character on the show. They're so vital. Like the characters make like inside jokes about it. They always make comments like, oh, like that fabric wasn't, created yet, like in like 1865. So like going into it, like, did that add pressure for you to make sure that these clothes were memorable and stood out, but still like were historically accurate?
Well, it changes as the show has gone on. So we started out the show where we weren't sure where the clothes came from. So in the first episode last season, it was the Civil War, and things did not quite fit perfectly. Some of the guys were in uniform, so that was okay, but things were a little off. So we've sort of tried to. We always had it sort of set the tone that we're going to build upon what is actually happening, where they're going, what their situation is. Then in the first season, eventually they had a wardrobe department that was like Western costume, and they had experts that would dress them, so everything was quite perfect. And then we built on color for each episode, and the other trick is also they can be a little bit off, but when they go into the world with the background, the production design, the cars, the hair, the makeup needs to be perfect. They can always be a little bit off, but everything, the world they go into has to be perfect. This season was different because they blew up the wardrobe department, and it became this kind of joke, like, how are they going to get the clothes? And that's where actors, we'd sit around the writer's room and talk about, like, what are they going to say? What's it going to be this time? How are they going to get the clothes? Where are they going to steal it from?
It's fun because like it's okay for them to be like anachronistic. It's like
it is, and they are, and then Eric Kripke. May not be a secret. He did not like hats. He thinks it,
I love the hats.
I know. He thinks it distracted from the actors. What you see in frame is everything is from here up. And I just again, I think it was during the Alamo I had my breakdown. I was like, they have to have hats. I can't. As I was like mumbling it, they must have hats. So part of what you see this season is I said, guys, if you're going to keep the hats on, we need some acting, is what I called it. I was like, we need to gesture with the hats. And now we've had great fun with how they work their clothes. So if you watch some of the episodes, like the Hollywoodland episode, you'll see Malcolm Barrett is like they actually were trying to one up each other, like how they were tipping hats or like pointing it to the making it to gesture. I was like, and then I was like, Eric, you clearly you can't get rid of the hats.
Who's the best actor?
Could be Malcolm. Malcolm Barrett may win. He may win for his act acting.
He has that like
Hollywood.
news page boy caps. Yeah.
He has some page boy caps, and he gets the fedora every once in a while if he's a good boy. Yeah.
So what is your day-to-day like once you get a script? Do they tell you beforehand?
We try to bribe the writer's room as much as we can, be it cookies, liquor, whatever it is. I need to get the upper hand about, like, what do you think's coming down the pike? And everyone's sworn to secrecy, and every once in a while, somebody will give me a little bit of a snippet. And they realize we need to get some information as soon as possible, but they're also afraid of telling us something too soon, and we get, all excited to start pulling clothes all over town, and then it disappears. So it's a fine line. So it's 0 to 90 every single day, and we'll get a script, and we will send out to our whole department. Even though we're not supposed to, sometimes everything that's coming down the pike with it, we break it down. We call historians. We do boards. We do sketches. We pull from the costume houses, and we kind of start getting like ideas that we can draw from. And then the research is just it's unbelievable. And I think most of the costume designers, are historians in themselves, and that we spend so much time, and sometimes that time is 5 minutes, but we really hone in our skills of taking, especially on a project like this, is that we try and gather what we can, what the personality was like, not just what the fashion was for that character at that time. We want to break down what we see even in written pages, what it talked about that particular character. It might not just be the one photograph you can find in 1865. Oh well, that's them, but we really try to extrapolate something else out of what that person was and bring them to life in a different way. So even though it may have been, this is what everybody knows them as, we try to really try and bring more of a personality into it, and it's
it's liberating when you go further back and there's not as much documentation of what people were wearing.
It's all different, and that's what it is. Sometimes it's liberating because we have freedom, because there is nothing there. And we'll find a painting, and I'll be like, we're going to do it. This is it. This is this episode. Everything revolves around this. We'll talk to the production designer, and we'll be like, this is going to be this episode. But then it's also fun, like we did, for instance, we did Reagan, the attempted assassination on Reagan. And there was so much research, and we tried to match the assassination exactly to the photos. And then we had our characters, and who were they going to be? What would they, if they're going to go steal shows, what were they going to do? And out of the blue, Abigail Spencer and I decided that it's, because it was about the lesbian character who was finally, she was trying to come out, she was from a traditional Indian family, she was coming out to her family, or she didn't know she was going to do it, but they had to make sure that she stayed on track and really embraced her true who she was as a person, or history was going to change. And so we decided, Tootsie was a liberating film from that time period, and so our lead character, Abigail Spencer, it started off kind of just as a broad stroke, but it was like, this is, it's Tootsie. It was Tootsie 1981, but this is now we're showing like what people's struggles, women's struggles were, and what was going on. And so we had a whole other story within the story, and so we built, a lot of our characters were built around, not exactly what was. It was the period, but it was, again, who were they in that period?
Mm-hmm. So how much of the clothes is sourced or rent or bought, and how much is handmade or custom made?
Most of the principal characters at this point, we found out that it's just easier to make it than to try to get it, because it's
even all those ball gowns?
Like what Hala was saying, yeah. I mean, it's just, the painting is so broad. I mean, everything has to kind of work together, and you have your characters, and you can't just pull it off a rack. It all has to have, we're telling a story on a lot of different levels. There's, people have to recede or go to the forefront of the story depending on what their journey is on that particular episode. And we have just found we have so much more control in the time period that we have to do it, to just, source the fabric, make it and fit it to the actors. By the time you sometimes can purchase something or get something from a costume house, by the time you have to remake it, it's taken way too much time and way too much money. And it, may not be exactly what you want. So we just, make it.
Every week I feel like it's so elaborate. It's like its own mini movie. So how much? What's
fun.
the prep time like?
It's fast. We thought, you start off at the beginning of the season. You have a couple of weeks for your first episode, and then you get your second episode, and you're like, we're in a groove. We've got this. We've pulled all this. We've pulled all this for the second episode. We kind of know what we got to do. We're gonna get it approved by producers and down the line. And then what they did to us is, we're not ready with that script. We're going to pull 1940s Hollywood up, and you now have basically a week or two to do that. And then everything, it was just chaos. It was like an explosion, and that's what happened to us. But, we're pretty fearless on our crew, and I have amazingly talented people working with me. And, we got it done. But that sort of started off our season. The next thing you knew, we had, it felt like probably 2 weeks an episode. Mm-hmm. So
I love the old Hollywood episode because I love old Hollywood and the Katharine Hepburn Philadelphia Story dress. How did you guys do that one?
Well, we tried to play a lot with color, and so for whatever reason, we were thought that Abigail, Lucy's character, would be sort of in this white dress, and then Abby kind of looked at me and she said, one of my secret desires is to be Katharine Hepburn. And so we researched what was happening on the Paramount lot, and the movie had just finished and wrapped. And so we pitched the producers that, because that was sort of our fun sort of Moxie episode too. And we said, what if they go into the wardrobe department at Paramount and they steal that dress? And she can wear it. The clothing was not, I can remember the days I used to be able to go to Sony and find clothes that were, or even Western costume that Scarlett O'Hara had worn. They weren't as precious as they are now. Now they understand that we have to have archival clothing, we have to protect our film history. So, they said, okay, let's do it. And they said, by the way, she's going to fall in a pool, and you probably need 4 of them. So let's make 4 beaded gowns like Katharine Hepburn wore in the Philadelphia Story. But it was fun, and it was an amazing episode to do. But
what's been the hardest costume to make so far?
That one, just kidding. They're all hard. The hardest costume to make, we've done so many different ones. That was actually particularly difficult because we were actually copying a dress. So the beading was hard to do in a short amount of time. And it had to, it was a tough dress to copy. I'm trying to think what would be the hardest. That's a tough one.
Alamo again.
Yeah, I know. No, not the Alamo. Not for. I mean, I was looking mostly at Abby's dresses. The last episode we did, we had
the Chinatown.
The Chinatown episode. It started off with a script, and it was different than what we actually shot. And so we're going on a theme that was going to be an opium dream. It was our final episode. We were going to go very literal with our characters and the colors. So in a way, it was easy creatively to do, but then again, we had to also we had to find all the pieces and get them made. And we had every actress now. We had all the cast was going back in time. And so we had to do, bustle dresses for all these girls, and basically in about 2 weeks. So, I wanted, and originally it was going to be much more colorful. So then they said, no, we're just going to do Chinatown. So everybody's in black. And then the women were going to really stand out. So that's where we just said, we're just going to go for it. We don't know if we're going to get picked up. We're just going to make it. We're not going to tell producers. We're just going to have fun and do our fantasy. No one's going to tell us no.
Those dresses were gorgeous.
I know, and nobody
like
even
Jessica's
knew
dress.
what it was going to look like when they came out. None of the producers, nobody knew. So, Jessica was, we had a lot of blue on Wyatt. That was sort of his color. And so, we had this relationship with Jessica, and she turned out to be basically a traitor to him. And so, and she was kind of like this bird that was sort of flying off. So we used a bluebird was her, was her dress. And so there's, again, you never see anything except from here up, but we spared no time, no detail on it. So like there's little details on the dress that looks like a, whether it's wings opening up, there's all these pleats, and the same with the back of the tail of the dress. And then we had sort of like this scarlet red that were like sort of supposed to be like, red,
scarlet
like
letter.
like blood drops in there, and she has the red lace gloves that she has
It really
on.
pops and it stands out because like everyone else's color is not as bright.
And everything's and they are so different. Like it probably as a palette, you may not have put it all together, but we didn't. We just wanted them to each be specific to their personalities. And then I had to have, a bird on her hat. and as much as Eric Kripke hates hats, but so I sent one of my girls, I was like, I need you to find me scarlet wings, and we need to put them on the hat, and you have 24 hours to do that. And she somehow did it. Susan Anderson's amazing, and she brought this. I have these, and like a miracle, it all came together. And then Annie's character. She's always very jealous. So we did this beautiful green satin dress, and hers is like much more subdued. And in the beginning, for that period, you just put more and more and more on, and that is the period. Three. Usually, there's like three sort of different fabrics and elements on it, and yet we sort of stripped her down a little bit. Because that's her character was. She's very she's the assassin. So and then Abby. We've done every color under the sun on her for each episode, and usually they all sort of meant something, depending on the episode. And there she was. She was at this moment. She was very black and white, and it was funny because it was inspired from an actual dress, and we tried all these different things, and we even tried different colors, but I kept going back to the black and white. That was sort of her crossroads. That was it.
And it was like asymmetrical.
It was asymmetrical stripes, and we had so much fun. We just draped things different ways every day. We'd go in and like, let's do this now, and then her mother had. Hers was a China silk brocade, and it was called the coin of life is what was on her dress that you can't really see, which was the irony is that she actually gets killed in the episode. So yeah.
So has there ever been anything you haven't been able to find, like you couldn't get wings on a hat?
There's been times where I've tried to put them out of my mind that we've had to, children of a lesser God, we wanted this and we're going to do this because they're going to roll in 5 minutes. But for the most part, I feel pretty fulfilled of what we've been able to accomplish on such a short amount of time. And I look in awe of what the tailors in our shop do, the Mudo Little does. We've pretty much incorporated everybody in town. There's been so many different tailors that we've used, and then we had a gentleman that worked with us, and we had Hailey Amar, the actress, was over 6 feet tall that came in, and we couldn't fit anything for her, and you need to make a dress in 3 days. I mean, to make all her clothes, and I just love coming on set and watching it in action. Yeah.
I know Eric has said that they never want to go to the same period twice. Yes. But have you ever recycled any of the outfits on the show?
We've done a few dirty tricks where because we've been like if it's pilot season and we know we can't make everything, we've recycled a suit or two here and there where you would not notice it. Yes, but nothing except modern clothes. Modern clothes are recycled, but
those are okay.
Period clothes now because we haven't we logically had to connect the dots too. It's like yes, he could wear that because they still have it and it came with them and it's there. And whenever they jump back in time, there's that thing. I was like they started that where they have to leave their clothes. A lot of times ditch them. I was like, what do you mean? We have to ditch their clothes back there? And I've just got those great boots. But so that's the other, the switch off was we had to start tracking our clothes as when they're ditching them and we can't get them back and when they can.
Do you ever start like pre-cataloging? If you just like see something and you're like, oh, that would be something good on Abigail and like 1790.
My assistant designer hates it when I do that, but I'll be at the costume house. I was like, this is amazing. Look at this piece. And it's like, I'm just going to put it over here on hold, and maybe we'll come to that period. She's like, I was like, Miriam, we got to focus. We've got a week to get this done. And she's like, that's not even anywhere. I was like, but I know somebody will snap it up. And, we're always looking at the trades, like what's starting when and the period close, because we're always worried some designer's going to come in and steal all the good stuff. Yeah.
Have you pitched to Eric, like where you would like to go, or
yes.
Where?
Yeah, no,
has he taken you up on
that. Sometimes we have a voice in it. We've pitched some ideas that have coincided, fortunately enough, and I think in the future, if we go again. Is that we've all become much closer. It's and any show is very aspirational, and they start off and they're just trying to find their footing, find their their characters, find their voice. And I feel like this season, the actors, the writers, everybody really got really came together and really expressed their ideas. And I feel like we really became a family, and we weren't afraid to talk about what we wanted to talk about. We weren't afraid to be told no, and I think everybody. It was a group effort, which is I don't know if we feel that. I don't feel that all the time on shows, but I think people became very passionate about what we were trying to accomplish, and I think next season we would have more of that. I think that. We're constantly, as we research, we'll be like, we'll find, this is amazing. I don't know how far are you into it. Can we add this into the script here? And, I've seen things actually get added into the script. And it's fun. And it's a fun adventure.
Mm-hmm. And you haven't heard any word yet on season 3?
Nothing. We don't know yet.
# renew timeless.
Yes, yes.
What would you like to see in season 3 if it comes to pass?
I think it would be there's no end to exciting stories in history. So, I think one thing would be the future. I think that's something we haven't. It'd be interesting to see go into the future. I mean, I love the 20s. There's so many good stories. That's a really tricky question. We get asked that a lot. And, I'd like to go back to Egypt. I'd like to go back to, to really explore, go further back and, and see what that holds in putting pieces together for our, with our future. I mean, it's, history's cyclical. And I think what's kind of exciting about a show like ours is that we can really see what happens today by going back into the past. And, and I love that. I love the opportunity of being able to be a part of that.